Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of For What It's Nerd. Today's episode, we are going to be looking at What If Season 3, which is releasing in just over a month. But before we get into that, should I say, I want to say that I had planned or hoped to catch up on Arcane ahead of this episode. Didn't happen because there's been stuff going on and been stuff that I've been trying to, sort out. So that didn't come to fruition. But I'm hearing good things about it. Hope you guys are enjoying Arcane. I will probably try and catch up soon. I actually didn't even finish season 1 when that came out because I got so busy then too. So it was going to be a big project to get through all of it ahead of doing a video on it today. So I actually wanted to discuss What If. The season 3 trailer dropped on Monday last week, and I've got to be honest, I think this is probably going to be the best season. From the trailer alone, there seems to be a lot of interesting characters in this. You know, you've got a lot of characters who we've had before, but haven't been able to that we've had in the MCU before, but they haven't really seen in What If, should I say? And so you have stuff like Kate Bishop, you have Agatha Harkness, you have Moon Knight. Blade's apparently going to show up as a Moon Knight variant. You have Storm showing up in this season, which is going to be incredibly interesting for the implications of the mutants in the MCU. Red Guardian seems to be very prevalent in this season, amongst others, right? And I Shang-Chi as well. That's another one. And I've got to say, I think it looks really good. I think what I'm finding with this season is it feels like a little bit more of a cohesive narrative, more similar to how all of the episodes linked in to the ending of season 1. Season 2 sort of did a similar thing, but not quite as much, and I think season 3 is kind of playing with the lines between the two. But obviously we're getting some characters back as well. We're getting Captain Carter again. I know some people have thoughts on Captain Carter, but I personally enjoy the character. And Kahori, which incidentally, Kahori is also being added into Marvel's Strike Force this week, so or next month, should I say? Like it's being announced this week into next month, so that's very interesting as well because it suggests that Kahori has a relatively big role, and they're trying to promote Kahori as a character going forward. Yeah, I'm very excited to see how this season pans out. What I think is, again, the thing that upsets me the most about this season so far is the fact that it feels like they almost started to get a formula for What If, and that was with season 2, and they're doing it with season 3 as well, is releasing it in December, releasing it in like one episode daily, and kind of getting people to come in and watch. Like it's almost like a Christmas advent calendar, but What If, right? And I think that works, and I'm really sad that this is the last season. I think I know why it's the last season. I think I have a sort of intimation as to why it's the last season, and I think that's because it's going to lead into what happens in Secret Wars in some way. And once Secret Wars is done, What If is going to kind of not be possible anymore because the MCU, as it stands, is going to be a little bit more rigid again from the multiversal standpoint. I don't know how true that is, but I think that's kind of where it's going, and especially because there's been rumors that some stuff from in Secret Wars will be linked to what's happening in What If. So we'll see what happens there. But I do think that it's a shame. I personally would love to see, if this show had 10 seasons, fair enough. But I feel like we've not even scratched the surface, and I feel like some of these episodes have been really the surface of What If, And I understand sometimes it's hard to get the actors back to do some of these parts. I get that. But I think there's so much richness in the idea of, in comics in general, but the idea of What If, and the fact that some of these interactions are happening in What If that wouldn't have happened otherwise is great. And some actors that never would have been able to be together on screen, for example, look at, for example, the episode in season 1, and I didn't love this episode, but this is the kind of power of What If in a way. You have Tony Stark and Killmonger. You have that Iron Man and Killmonger and that kind of relationship where you wouldn't have that otherwise. This season, for example, it seems like we're getting Captain America, like Sam's Captain America, alongside Moon Knight, alongside Monica Rambeau, alongside Red Guardian. We're getting to see some of those relationships that actually haven't been explored on screen at all, if they ever will. So I'm really excited to see how that pans out. Now, I don't know what the episodes are necessarily going to entail, but I do think that you're going to see some kind of I'm pretty sure that sort of the end episode is going to be sort of like a trial of Uatu. And I don't. The reason I say that is you see the Watchers, a lot more of the Watchers, kind of coming out of the woodworks in this one, and I'm thinking, what if they're going to punish him for what happened in season one, especially, and then kind of season two as well? He's getting involved, and he's not meant to, and I wonder if that's catching up with him, and I wonder if from that there's going to be some repercussions, and I'm wondering if that somehow either destabilizes or changes the circumstances for Secret Wars. And I'm wondering if they're kind of hinting with that, because it would not be hard to do that here and then kind of re-elaborate that or re-elaborate something similar in the movie, right? In like a year or two's time. So I'm kind of interested to see how it all like, I keep saying the same words, and I'm realizing that, but I think it's going to be one of those things where What If has been such an interesting plan, an idea, and concept, and then I think some of the execution has gone poorly, but I think overall it's been a success. I think people kind of go, "Oh, what if?" But people are kind of against Marvel at the moment in general. Like, I don't see. I think What If is symptomatic. It's not the cause. I think the reason people aren't loving What If is because they're not loving Marvel. If this was the only project that they felt was like slightly bum notes, I think you kind of get away with it a bit more. But because What If hasn't quite hit, because Marvel, sorry, hasn't quite hit the same level as What If, I think you have these issues kind of coming through where there's a bit of a divide, and people aren't like really as interested as they are in, like, for example, Deadpool and Wolverine. And so you see a lot more segmentation, I think, of fandoms, of the fandom now, because I don't think people are like, once upon a time, I think you'd have most Marvel fans would go and watch most projects. Now you hear of people going, "Oh, I'll watch that one maybe. I'll leave that one," I think. And I think they have to be careful with that. I think there has to be a level of carefulness with that. So I understand if perhaps What If doesn't link in at all. But if it did, I think it's going to go that way. I think it's going to be something that to do with the Watu and kind of the Watchers, and seeing how that changes the kind of cosmic scale of power. Because I feel like with something like Secret Wars, if Watu didn't really exist at the time of Endgame, or if he did but wasn't really showing himself, then I feel like, I know time's a flat circle, so to speak, but like the idea that things changed at that point. So we've seen the first instance of the events, and then that happened again, but with Uatu thereafter. If Uatu is then removed, how does that affect things? Would he be there at Secret Wars? Would he not? All those types of things. But yeah, I think it's going to be one of those wait and see ones, and I think despite the fact that What If is ending, we still do have other shows to look forward to, and in the same art style as well, or similar art style. With we have the Marvel Zombies coming up, which is like, it's set in that What If universe, so it's kind of a spin-off of What If. And then we also have the is it Eyes of Wakanda, or whatever it's called. I forget its name off the top of my head. And then and that's going to be obviously animated as well. So that'll be interesting to see, and see if that kind of leans into any of these ideas that we've kind of explored in What If. I don't have too much else to say on this one, to be fair, and I know we do typically a little bit longer episodes, but I think sometimes it's okay just to say what you want to say and then be done with it. So I'm very excited to see how What If pans out. I might try and do kind of like, as I did last time, like short a day discussing them, but I can't promise that. If we don't do that, we'll have like a wrap up at the end of the year, so it might be our like a last episode of the year. We also have a lot of other things coming up. We have Wicked coming up, we have Moana 2, which I'm probably going to watch both of those. Then we have Skeleton Crew, the new Star Wars show, obviously What If, as I just said, and Sonic 3 is coming out at the end of the year as well. So there's a lot going on, a lot to process, a lot to look forward to, and I hope you guys are excited for it. Yeah, I think that's kind of it for this one. It is a shorter one. Like I say, I did want to discuss other things for this episode, but it just didn't pan out. And I'm really not wanting to leave episodes this year, because actually it's funny, if we do an episode to the end of the year, every Sunday to the end of the year, we will have had the same exact amount of episodes this year as last year, which I think is like 43, which I think is a really good going for the fact that, like, 9 weeks off is not bad, I don't think, across a year in terms of the podcast. I would like to have it less, but sometimes things just don't happen, and big games release, or there's no big news in that week that I personally want to cover, because that's the thing, right? It's not just recovering anything. If I don't have interest in it, I don't want to cover it. So yeah, I think we'll get back into the rhythm. Maybe next year we can hit a little bit higher, but I do want to kind of maybe keep as close as we can, unless something crazy happens to that 43 from last year. So if you guys are enjoying these videos, as always, do let me know. Do leave a like, leave a comment. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Music or anything like that, please do. Obviously, I don't know how it works on those. I don't really I don't really listen to too many podcasts myself, if I'm being 100% honest, just because I'm constantly making stuff and reading stuff and writing stuff and watching stuff. But hit the thumbs up or whatever you do over there. And thank you guys so much for watching, as always, / listening, and I will see you again very soon for more. Bye, guys.